Hello, my name is Chris Palmer, and in today's video, how to rank your content writing. So in this tutorial, this guide, this is video 1 of the NLP method. So this video, what I want to do is showcase and lay out the steps to the NLP method utilizing natural language processing API that Google has so graciously let us use. This video is going to walk through these steps. I have 10 steps to writing content with the NLP method. I also want to touch on first, what exactly is the NLP and how do you read it? How do you understand it? So that's what we're going to touch on. Let's get an article, SEO audit checklist. So that's what I'm going to use here to walk through the NLP with you, because understanding the NLP will then give a deeper understanding of the method. All right, so let's just grab the snippet. And what's great about grabbing the snippet is a couple of things, especially when utilizing the method. All right, we can understand what's the mood, what is the intent. I mean, there's a lot of information that we can gather here, but let's gather this up because I want to walk through some of the most important pieces of the NLP. So we'll go ahead and put this snippet in here. We're going to analyze it, and I'll walk through some of the most important pieces of this NLP. All right. So one of the most important pieces, and I'll walk through here, see, the entities are people, places, and things. Now, Google, and I've went ahead and I wrote it down here. Entities, according to Google, is distinct and independent existence. Person, organizations, numbers, consumer good, entities will be separated in brackets, as you can see on here. So those are your entities. Understanding the entity is relatively important to the NLP method. Now, as far as syntax, which is here, we will not discuss that because that's how the sentences are strung together, and that's fine. But more importantly, what I feel is very, very important and what is very crucial to the NLP method is this right here, salience. Now, it used to be LSI was the go-to, all right? Now, as time has progressed, LSI is very, very important. However, as the time has been going on, this salience is a better understanding of the important words that you need to contain within your article. So these numbers per words are going to give you the most important words that need to be included inside of your article. I'm not saying that LSI is still not important, other words that come up while being spoken about a topic, but this salience is so important to the NLP method. So let me give you a deeper understanding of what this salience is. So when we're taking a look at the word here, each word inside of the demonstration that we put in, all right, I grabbed that snippet for the keyword, I put it into the API, and it's breaking down the words. Now, as you can see here, it's giving it a score. Anything that is going up above 0.05 holds more weight and is very important to the keyword or key phrase that we're trying to target. All right. So now let's talk about sentiment. Now, sentiment words are basically setting the mood. Now, if you go down here, there's 3 score ranges. All right. Now, as you're looking at the score range, there's green, there's a yellowish, or you can call it a beige or a manila, whatever you'd like. And then there's also red. Now, I look at this in a very simple manner. Green means positivity. The middle, the manila, means it's a neutral vibe. And red is negative, in my opinion. So as we can see here, it's breaking down everything that I put inside of here, right? And it's giving each sentence a score. Is this positive? Is it a neutral? Is it negative? So what we are looking at here is a positive. So now that we understand the most crucial pieces of the NLP API and how it's breaking down sentences and words and it's putting them together, I know I didn't cover syntax. but that's later on. That'll be in video 2. But categories is the last piece that I want to touch on, then we'll get into the steps of the method. All right. So categories, obviously, it's a very simple piece. It's giving us a idea of the overall topic. After you have ended writing or creating your content, you want to make sure that it's obviously in the same exact category of the ranking content. So Google is understanding your content writing. Makes a lot of sense, right? Now, let's move in. I have broken down 10 steps to the method, all right? And it's going to be some of the best practices, of course, obviously, but we're also going to mix in a little bit of the NLP. So let's go with step 1. Now, step 1 obviously is keyword research for any, all right, blog post or content writing or anything is really your number one most important thing. But there's something that is a little bit more important when we're discussing and thinking about keywords and keyword research, and it's the intent. Now, it's not only the intent of the searcher that matters, but it's also what is Google showing us? What does Google want to see as far as intent of my writing? So for this particular instance, obviously the keyword of choice for the tutorial and for this video is SEO audit checklist. Now there's 2 things that I'm looking at. One is, and this is step 1, figuring out the intent. All right, so this is step 1. I have a 10-step list of the NLP method. All right, and I'll share that with you. And I have video 2 walking through the process and setting up the entire piece, writing out the content. And the reason why I'm showing this is because aside from my email catching website that I'm sure everyone has seen, I have numerous affiliate sites. I run multiple other sites, right? I wouldn't just be home for no reason. I have multiple other sites, and we are seeing a lot better results than we were by utilizing just a lot of the old tricks. And I'll get into more of that later. But in any case, let's go ahead and take a look at our intent. So first and foremost, we have this, all right? We can see that the intent is obviously a list. It makes a lot of sense for this keyword, but more importantly, the intent of the searcher and what's most important is being shown right here, all right? It's a step-by-step list. So that is going to be the intent. So after that, my second piece, once I understand the intent and what I'm going to write, my second piece, and again, this is a list. Now you can put it in any order you want, but the next piece of the list is going to be my alts. I want to see in image search what is popping up, all right? Because obviously we need a lot of multimedia. We want it to have a lot of value to the end user. We want to use the alt text that Google is already rewarding and winning. So in order to do this, this is step 2, all right? We go in, we keep the same keyword, and we are then looking, what is Google rewarding as far as imagery and alt text? We are then inside of images, and now we're taking a look. So a few things pop out. Obviously, you're always going to see SEO audit checklist. SEO audit checklist to me is a relatively medium tail keyword. So any variation of that is perfectly fine. SEO auditing would be a good variation, but there's other words that Google is rewarding, and let's start picking those out. So I see the word free here. I see the word comprehensive here. As we go through, I see the word website here. Website SEO audit checklist. Ultimate SEO audit checklist. The word on page, we would skip over that. SEO audit checklist. Comprehensive. All right. So we understand that piece. I'm not going to walk through everything. I have a whole tutorial. Now let's move in to number 3. So this is step 3, and this is in no particular order. You can do this in any order you want. I'm just walking through the steps. All right. So step 3 is going to be deciding how many images are on the page. And this is relatively simple. So we need to find out what Google fond of, what is working in the top ranking positions. So very easily for step number 3, we'd go to the top 3 ranking positions. We would pull up the site and we would go and literally see how many images are the top rankers using for this keyword. So now that we've established step 3, we need to go into our page setup. All right, taking a look at what's working inside of the SERP. We'll open up Brian's site because it's very well laid out, but all of the sites are laid out the same way. And let me explain to you how they are laying out the sites. And this is just for this keyword. Now I'll move into more about using the NLP API, but I'm giving you the framework of the step-by-step to this process. All right. So as we can see here, and this particular layout is followed across all of the top rankers. And the layout is, let me explain to you what I mean by this. We go to the headers, and as you can see how it's being laid out, 1H1, which is typical for any site. That's a main signal, your H1. But as you can see, it's an H2, right? And then he'll give an explanation. H2 explanation, H2 explanation, right? That's how I'm going to write my page out. Understandable? So that was step number 4, the page layout. Now let's move into step 5, and this is going back to the NLP. This is such an important step. This is literally the most crucial step of the entire process. Step number 5. You could have been step 1. I just hurried up and wrote a list, right? I'm sure you can understand. So this is where we are checking the salience, all right? Salience are considered the most important words by Google, right? I don't make them up. They say they're important. So I need to include them. We'll go to the API. We're going to put the content inside of the API. Now, as you can see here, all right, we can see, and these are some very important steps, all right? I'm not going to see these. Step 1, objectives, all right? See the scores that are here? This is giving the importance of the word, all right? I hope this is making sense, all right? User experience, this, important. See this? It's a little bit above. Now, as we get lower in here, okay, and you can open these up, you can make them even more. You'd have to go through piece by piece, but what I'm getting at is these are the important pieces that are important to this particular keyword, all right? So that is step 5. So step number 6 is the sentiment. What is the mood of the content? And like I discussed in the very beginning, very simply, we put in the content that we want to analyze. We take a very brief look here, and as you can see, it's a positive, all right? So when we're writing, we want to stay within those confines, and when we go and we check our content, we want to make sure that it matches. So the very next step in this particular 10-step NLP method is going to be checking the speed. Now, why is speed important? Because speed is not going to give us a ranking increase, but if it's not as fast or faster, it will be a demotion. So in order to do that, and this is very, very simple for step 7, I like to use a site called GT Metrics, but a very good rule of thumb is 1.5 or faster, all right? Just make sure you're at least as fast as the top 3 rankers or just a little bit faster, all right? So let's go ahead and move on to step number 8 is the length. The amount of content that needs to be on the page. And I want to touch on this more importantly. Do not write content to simply put words on the page. You will then open up a tool and you will see, and I'll just do one very quick here. I'll open it up. I'll pop open density and I'll take a look. For this particular page, they have 9,000 words. Now, what's even more fun is Brian Dean wrote 12,000 words. All right, so that is the amount of content writing that you will need to take care of in order to compete in this SERP. But each sentence, each word, each line needs to have importance to the topic. Let's move into step 9. All right, so after you have written your content, this is a Google ran operation, I guess. You can literally put your content in to take a look, and it will test the performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO. All right. So there's the 10 steps. Really, I wanted to explain the NLP, what was important in NLP. I wanted to give a framework to the step-by-step process. Hopefully this was well received. It's simply using the best practices and mixing in NLP. We've been playing with it. I had somebody create a variation utilizing this, but I wanted to show this because everybody has access to this. And it's a lot of fun. So if you have not deep dived into NLP for your content writing, hopefully this SEO tutorial has helped you. If you have any questions about the NLP, content writing, digital marketing, SEO, pretty much anything SEO, business marketing related, please feel free to ask in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you in the next SEO tutorial, how to write content video.